the end of the day.
It's Mel.
And me. You wanna know
How we did it.
You wanna know how we do it. You wanna know
How
we're
we
doing
doing
it.
it.
Welcome to the Mel and Me podcast.
At the end of the day.
Sup?
Hello,
What's up?
hello.
We are back.
We back in the house.
Yeah, episode 16
Yes.
of Mel and Me the podcast. Yeah, it's we're kind of recording a little bit at a different time than normal. It's actually daytime. We normally record in the evening. This is our second attempt because we did this session last night, but we found that it didn't quite capture everything and the file was corrupt. So we had to come back out here today and try to get the episode for this Tuesday coming up. So it's a little bit, I was debating whether or not I was going to say that, but it is what it is.
It's technology.
We record our episodes a week ahead of time. Used to be 2 weeks. We're going to hopefully get back to that. So yeah, we're out here again trying to get this done. So it's going to be about really trying to recapture the energy that we had on the initial session, but we're gonna get through it because we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna talk about some of the challenges that we have dealt with and that we deal with, in regards to our home ownership in South Africa, right? Mm-hmm. So let me just take a sip of my tea while we at it. Go ahead and promote the mug, Mel and Me the podcast, the official mug. I'm gonna stop doing this soon, but
Right.
it's just fun to do. So yeah, episode 16 talk about some of the challenges that we face and that we deal with, and I think it would be good because over the course of some of our videos that we posted, especially the very popular Doing Big Things in South Africa episode, that was episode 2, long time ago, being as how we're on episode 16 now.
Right.
We have had some comments with people, saying things like, I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your experience there because I'm interested in doing the same. And our friend Valerie, who is here, who we connected through one of our podcasts. So this will be some information, Valerie, that'll be interesting to you, I guess, to kind of get our perspective on some of the things that we dealt with. And then also, I think, even with our South African family, I mean, because after all, we are, like I like to say, planting seeds or planting our feet, so to speak, in South Africa. I think it kind of presents an opportunity for them to get some perspective of how, like, we as African Americans or anyone for that matter who is coming into their country, to purchase real estate or to settle or relocate or visit or whatever, some of the kind of the things that we deal with are things that are in our minds and some of our experiences, because after all, we're the guests in their society, and they are the hosts,
Right.
So it just gives a chance for them to kind of, because I don't know how much they probably don't care because they have their lives that they manage from day to day.
Yeah.
But it's something, it's something to learn.
Yeah.
Something to
Absolutely.
learn from.
Yeah.
So there are many different areas that we encounter challenges, right? And I kind of highlighted about 5 or 6 different areas that we deal with. And these challenges are they come with a level of frustration, from time to time, but it's just a matter of keeping things in perspective and knowing that when we decided to embark upon this thing, that there would be challenges just due to the way that we are managing our journey, because as we've spoken to before, different people have different approaches. Some people just dive in head first, they pick up and leave. they move there and they figure out how to make it work when they get there.
But
you
we
know.
plan. We like to plan.
Well, there's some level of planning no matter which
Yeah.
route you take. But our particular approach is a more long, drawn out, calculated, approach, less aggressive.
Yeah.
So let's talk about things like geographic challenges, right? Just the mere fact that we are here most of the time, at least at this point in the United States, and our residence is there. Second residence is there, right? You're talking, a 15-hour flight, 15-hour direct flight from continent to continent, right?
Yeah.
Which I think back to a few weeks ago when we went, how our trip started out, and we knew it was going to be a longer trip this time because we didn't fly direct.
Yes.
First time we went, we flew direct, so it was a straight 15 hours, and it was over and done with. But this time we had to go, to two different airports in the United States and then in Nairobi, Kenya. And by the time, and I got the footage that I can laugh at. I can go back and look at the footage of it. Started out one way, everything was all bubbly and light. Even though we were tired early in the morning when we got up.
Yeah.
But by the time we were done with that trip, you were like over it. You could see the look in your face. It was funny.
So over it.
Yeah. So, but you have that geographic separation. You're
Yeah.
talking 15 hours, 8,390 miles, right? Or for our South African family out there, because you're on the metric system. In fact, I think the United States is probably the only, country in the world that uses I forget what it is, the old British system or whatever. But it's not metric. We look at things in miles, but 13,500 kilometers, right?
A nice distance.
It's a nice little distance. So that's going to present challenges there in and of itself, because it's not easy to get there. It's a plan, and it's an expense, a significant expense.
Yes.
Every time we want to travel there. So there's so the fact that we have another residence on another continent that's essentially a day away, and we're not there all the time, that presents a challenge, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But of course, we knew that going in, and that's something that we planned for.
Yeah.
There are different approaches that you can use, or you can put in place to mitigate that, right? You can have, we choose to not rent or let our place out. Let is the correct term. Over there, they don't really say rent. I guess it's let or lease, which is the same as lease, right? To let the property. And so, you could be on the ground there, I guess, if somebody was in the the residence under a lease situation, but it's not that case with us. We choose to keep it for us at this point, right? It's there specifically for us to reside in ourselves and not to lease out. But unless you have an agent on the ground, somebody who can work on your behalf, which is a big thing, which we don't have.
Because that's an expense too. So
that's a potential expense as well. I mean, because nobody's going to work for free.
Not at all.
And though I have awareness of some expats on the ground there who are residing in the Johannesburg area, and I don't know them personally. I've had some email communications here and there with people, and I imagine you could maybe connect with someone and say, hey, I need you to do me a favor. I'm willing to pay you to do this, but can you check on my spot? If it's something just as simple as that. But even still, there's a situation where, you'd have to send a key because I don't have a key there, right? So that's a matter of putting a key in airmail to send.
In hopes that it gets to them.
That's going to take a week.
Yeah.
So those are things that are challenges, and if something goes wrong, which last week, although nothing went wrong in that sense, but I was faced with a situation where I was about to make an impromptu trip over there. I would have been in Johannesburg, last weekend and through the middle of this week, and a situation came up, that we thought was taken care of when we took occupancy of the place. And it was not done. No big deal, but it was just a bit of a surprise that we thought it was done. But fortunately, it was something that ultimately was stated that could wait until the next time that we're there.
Yeah.
And so I ended up not booking that flight, but I was online.
Yeah, I had it ready to go.
ready to go, ready to, press enter and book that flight so that I can fly over there on a solo trip and get the business taken care of.
Yep.
Although I was looking forward to kind of going over there because I would have got a chance to, be in the place again and might have been able to get a couple other things done, like maybe some painting or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Some decorating.
Yeah.
Get some light decorating out the way, which I can't wait actually to get over there next time and get that decorating done so I can put our new artwork up.
Yes.
That came in today, which was really really awesome to see. Which, by the way, I'll just take and make mention of this individual. So there's this artist, this abstract artist here in the United States who is just she is just a brilliant artist in so many different regards. Whether it be visual art or music, writing. She is just pure genius in my opinion, and I've taken to her over the past year or so. First learned of her art. It's been a little bit more than a year now, and we own multiple pieces by her, and we got some today. And the artist's name is Queen Amina, and you can find her on Instagram. You can look her up. Her Instagram name is spelled QAYAEL. That's her profile. So the QA, and that is Queen Amina, I'm sure. The last part, I'm not sure what that is. But again, just do a search for her, Queen Amina. She's a brilliant artist.
She is.
And I posted on her page. I said that I don't know if we're gonna be the first to do this, but I thought it would be cool if we could be the first individuals to have some of her work on South African soil. And who knows? It's as brilliant of an artist as she is, she probably has people in the African continent that's already purchased some of her work. But when I saw these particular pieces, it was just a South African vibe, just with the colors and the patterns, so check her out. In fact, I think she did like a podcast or something with a South African. I don't know if they were an artist over there or whatever, and that's probably how the algorithm probably led me to her profile for those particular pieces that she did recently. Even though we have some of her other works, but it was just I just check her out. She is awesome, and I just see great things for her. I think she is just so brilliant. But anyway, that's a side note. But I'm looking forward to decorating
Me too.
our place with that art because it's gonna I think it's gonna really set our place off over there. So geographical distance. And in fact, this geographical thing has been with us from the beginning, because from the time we purchased our place, right? We were dealing with the geographic thing. And in fact, the process of us purchasing our residence over there was done completely remote and online. So we had to do all of our stuff online and using WhatsApp and email communications and those types of things.
Which we were not used to. That was new for us.
Because we don't. That's not normally how you purchase property here. If things are done in person, right? But it was necessary for us to do it because we couldn't obviously be traveling back and forth, spending thousands and thousands of dollars each trip. But fortunately, we did our homework and we did the research ahead of time, and we had our meeting last year when we first went. We kind of had an idea what type of property we wanted to buy into anyway, what type of community, and we got a lot of that legwork done, so we knew what we were going into, so that made the process a lot more seamless and stuff, even though it was still kind of unnerving, having to do such a large transaction, especially with the financial end, being on the other side of the world, essentially. So yes, but that was something that we did. It was, we utilized WhatsApp pretty heavily with the property executive during the sales process, and, video, the WhatsApp video conferencing feature.
Thank goodness for WhatsApp.
So WhatsApp is definitely a godsend. And as well as email. And then by the time We got ready to take occupancy. Everything was pretty much done. We showed up, got the keys, moved in, did walkthroughs.
But I just think too the technology that South Africa used, because it allowed us to really see the place, and it pretty much looked the same. So with us being able to see that.
What do you mean?
Beforehand, when we was doing virtual tours.
Oh,
on the
okay,
computer.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the developer. They do a lot of investment.
That was really neat, though.
The developer is like way ahead of the game with that. I'm really impressed with the developer and the model that they have for that. So yeah. But geographical challenges are definitely always there, because if anything happens or comes up, then at this point at least, we have to go over there.
Exactly.
And that's an expense.
Right.
So, maybe at some point we'll get to a point where we can have an agent on the ground, maybe employ some type of service or something like that. I don't know that we necessarily need that at this point. But it's something to be aware of.
Right.
So let's talk about process. Or processes,
yes,
administrative processes, ways of getting things done. Big, huge difference and challenges a lot of times with that.
Yeah.
The first thing that I look at is just the pace at which we tend to do things. Here in the United States, obviously, things move very fast. Things are very automated. You got big, huge databases and systems and stuff.
Right.
That manage a lot of stuff. These days, there's less leg work between people, where you're running back and forth or sending stuff between offices.
Everything's done
that
pretty
type of
much
stuff.
online or in some type of portal or something like that.
Exactly. So, that has been a challenge at times with us. And I remember early on with dealing with the property executive, and the way that she said it, she kind of put it in terms of when we had, and I forget what the situation was, but she basically told us, she said, okay, so one thing I want you to be aware of is that, here in South Africa, we're not a first world society, is the way she put it. And that's just the language that she used. Stuff like that kind of doesn't always sit the best with me, because I tend to not try to have that attitude, because to me it kind of feeds into that narrative of being the arrogant American, right? Which we tend to. The world is so United States centric. You know what I'm saying? And so I try to be careful of that whole thing. But when she said it, that she did say that,
right?
And so she said, and so with that, we have to have a little bit more patient, and things may not happen as quickly as you're accustomed to, but we'll get things done.
Right.
So things definitely move at a slower pace. But in many ways at the same time, South Africa in many ways, is more advanced in some areas, and we're not necessarily talking process when I say this, but just things in general, like when you look at, like you alluded to, technology and stuff. I think about how like even to get into our place, we have to have biometrics and stuff. Your thumb, fingerprint, palm scan, to get in to our residence and stuff. That's not something that you find over here. Especially not in regular normal people communities. Maybe in wealthy communities or those types of things, you have that high level of access. But it's kind of standard over there because they have concerns about security and keeping people safe or whatever. Right. Which it doesn't register with me to that degree, being from the United States, again, situation where things are fast here, and I don't feel any less safe there than I do here. Right. Truth be told. But nevertheless, they have those things in place with the secure access to communities and the estate communities and those types of things, and that's fine. But they don't do that here. But you got to have palm scans and stuff. I think about the banking situation with, dealing with the bank, high level of security. They put me through a lot of stuff just to be able to log into my account. It's a great thing because they want to keep your account secure. And, it's not even that much, that many mechanisms in place here with banking. So just as a side note, there are a lot of things in South Africa, that are ahead of us, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah.
You know, so things like email response time, though, even though that's an effective mode of communication, sometimes the response time is not as to the degree that I would like it for it to be.
Yeah.
Because like with me, I know, especially when it comes to business matters, like when I get an email, because we have our mobile devices
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. We used to quick response.
I get an email. If I receive an email from someone, especially if it's business related or something
I'm
like that,
responding immediately.
within a matter of a few minutes.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
that response going back. And so the email response time is not always, to my to what I'm accustomed to, right? And then the other thing we have to keep in mind is that one thing I learned about South Africa, and correct me if I'm wrong, family over there, and I know you know what I'm getting ready to say, is you all believe in sticking true to your business hours.
Which is good.
So when your business says it closes at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever it is, good luck trying to reach that business. Because when it's 5 o'clock, they're going to be gone. So if you haven't gotten a response by the end of business over there, you're going to wait until the next day or the day after that. It's kind of not like that here in the United States, because we work ourselves like crazy. So, our business hours may be until 5 p.m.
But we still 7, 8, 9 o'clock.
We're still there at 6. We may be there at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So
I mean,
that's just how it
it's good
is.
to be able to have that work family
Work
family
life balance, they call it,
and
right?
and
We
if
like to call it.
with the South Africa being able to, if it's your time is 5 o'clock, you shutting down at 5. I think that's good because it allows you more time to spend with your family. If you're not doing 2, 3, 4, because that's taking time away from your family if you're spending more hours, at work. So I think it's great.
Yeah. So, but that's what it is. So,
Yeah.
you're not always going to have that email communication happen, and I've had situations where I was on phone calls over the past few weeks trying to get stuff done with banking, and the call dropped, and I will talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, that's a challenge. Just processes and stuff, right? We're going through a thing with our taxes and rates right now. So taxes and rates are like real estate transactions here in the United States, a little bit different there. Like when you buy a property here, when you buy a piece of real estate and you close on that property, right? When you sit down at that closing table with the attorney and the home seller or whoever else that are going to be there, your real estate agent, when you walk away from that table, that deal is done. You take the keys to your place, unless there's some negotiation that you have on the side that the previous owner, if you're buying from someone who already owns and they're going to keep the property for a certain amount of time, to occupy it because they still have to move out. Those are agreements that you're going to negotiate. But typically speaking, you take the keys, especially if it's a new place, you walk away from the table and your work is done. All the paperwork that you signed at the table will go off to the government entity, whether the county, the bank, and whoever, and it gets filed. You never see it again, right? Until you get maybe a copy of your
You just
your
get a copy
deed or
of the
something like
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. It's recorded. Well, in South Africa, what we did was when we took occupancy of our property, we showed up, we got the keys, we moved in. But there is still work that needs to be done, the transfer process where the property is officially transferred to you.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's when the information is taken from the attorneys over there, and then it goes through some process in South Africa, and then they take that and they can apply it to transfer the property to you.
From them to us.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So, and that's a process. And we've been waiting, so far a month, and we were told it could be a couple or a few months for that to happen. And so you can literally take custody of your piece of real estate or your home, but technically it's not yours until that transfer process is complete. It's yours, but it's not yours. So it's just kind of funny, but that's one of those processes that are a bit of a challenge. And what it is meant for us is that, when we left, we're no longer on the ground. So that transfer process normally would be handled by us, but because we don't live there, we have to have an agent perform that on our behalf. So we have to hire an agent, hire a business that does that type of thing, and so
Exactly.
they're handling it. So they're in
There's another
communication.
cost.
There's another cost associated with that. So they're in communication with the attorney. So when the attorneys have their piece done, they'll reach out, contact the agency that's representing us to get our transfer done, and then we pay them, and they go, to the government. I'm assuming it's the province or whatever maybe it's the city of Johannesburg and a combination of the province or whatever to accomplish that transfer process.
Yeah.
So that's and again, it goes back to the geographical challenge, but also a process challenge as well. Because, we're accustomed to that being done. You take the keys, you got the place,
Done.
and you're done. But that's not the case there. So,
We're still dealing with that right now to this day.
yeah, as well as our levy situation.
Yeah.
Now, levies is another thing. So levies is similar to a levy is another fee, right? No different than, like, say we have homeowners association or property owners associations here. If you live in a community that's in a subdivision or townhome community or condo or any type of estate or whatever, where you have a homeowners association, you may have you have an association that manages that, the grounds, the amenities in your communities, those types of things, the garbage pickup. And so similar thing over there, and that's done by the body corporate. Okay, that's equivalent of the HOA, but then you still have a management arm, a management company that manages that piece, and they collect the levies. Okay, and so we have a situation now where I've been trying to get our levies paid for the past few weeks now, because we got and this goes back to process. We got our first levy statement invoice sent to us via email only 2 days before it was due. Saying your HOA fee is due on or before November 1st, and we got the email on October 30th.
Right.
So again, that's goes back to that process thing, right? So my expectation was, I kind of got mad about it. I really did, because I'm like,
We used to receiving at least 2 to 3 weeks before a bill is due.
Yeah. And the thing is about over here, if you don't pay your HOA fees, you're dependent upon the bylaws of the structure of your particular
house.
They can put a lien on your place, and they can seize your home and foreclose on it and all kind of stuff.
Right.
So one thing that I don't want, number one, is my name trashed, right? But I don't want to place my property in jeopardy, so if I show up over there and I'm trying to get in and I go to scan my hand and it normally it says access granted.
Did it say access denied?
Access denied. That would be embarrassing.
But we don't want any type of legal actions or anything.
Exactly. Because that's a serious thing, and it's not that the money isn't there.
Right.
I wired the money, a couple days later, and of course it's going to take 5 business days for the money to show up on the banking side there and for them to access. So we were a little bit behind there, but that's another process challenge that we're presently dealing with, trying to help them find that money, which they still haven't found yet. Hopefully they'll get back to me on Monday saying that they found it once I provided them the latest codes from our financial institution on this side.
Yes.
But so yeah, there are major challenges there. So it's important that, and that'll kind of help me segue to the next thing, the financial challenges. You want to make sure that if you embark upon this type of thing, that you have yourself a bank account established.
Yes.
Because that's the one thing that we definitely took care of this last time we were there. We sat down. We did it when we were there last year. We attempted to do it.
Yeah.
And the process kind of got broken because of the fact that even after we provided them all the paperwork, once we got back, they had something else that they needed. And I was like, again, it goes back to process.
Right.
I was like, I would have expected that they could have, we provided this office that information. Why can't they communicate between their 2 offices?
Right.
And give them that information?
And
why should I have to then send this document, this sensitive document, across email to this other office?
Right.
And so we chose to not go forward with it. And we waited until we were back on the ground there this year. And we went with a different bank this time. And everything was a lot smoother. But yeah, those are some of the challenges that you deal with. But you want to make sure that you have set yourself up a bank account ahead of time, so that you have an account in place that you can do business from. You don't have to worry about wiring money. You can wire the money from your U.S. account or whatever country you're in to the account there, and we'll just talk South Africa because that's where we are. So I don't want to speak in general terms. So I just say you can wire it to your account in South Africa, and then you can just do, say, an electronic debit from the South Africa bank to the entity in South Africa that you're doing business with.
Yeah.
And so that's our plan kind of going forward.
Yes.
So you want to definitely make sure that you have that that bank account set up ahead of time. Because wiring money, and then there's a fee for wiring money each time. So it can get rather expensive. You're spending unnecessary money, or unless you just do lump sum. Like we kind of do too, just wire a lump sum. That way you don't have to be transferring back and forth. And the other good thing is when we are there on the ground, we have a local bank that we can go to and just pull money from the ATM. We don't have to worry about the long distance fees and dealing with our bank back here. We already got money over there.
But even with the wire, like we're dealing with that right now, the money has to be tracked down. So again, just back to, like you're saying, if you have a bank account, that can be eliminated. You won't have to worry about that. Trying to search to see where the money is. It's automatically coming from your account that's right there in South Africa.
Yeah,
so that's another benefit.
Yeah, because we're dealing with the business entity's trust account.
Right.
Whereas with our personal account, we already know that works because we paid some bills from there already. So transferring money from our bank here to our bank there is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then once the money is on that side, it's already converted to Rand, and it's easy to do business. So get that account set up, people.
Yeah.
If you're interested in doing it, if you plan on spending any time over there, have that in place. And so so the thing with paying bills and wire transfers. So another challenge would be communication. Talked about earlier, specifically phone. And when we were over there, I remember talking about the little prepaid mobile phone that we got for like $8 US, 189 Rand it was, and we got the 100 minutes of data or whatever.
Yeah.
I forget what it was. But and we had the jokes from people saying, "Oh, our grandparents use those phones, because it's a little cheap, little plastic phone."
But we needed it.
So we can have that local South African number.
Yep. Just to even do transactions over there
for delivering our couple furniture pieces that we had delivered. They needed to contact us, and then even still with certain things we needed to. With using certain systems with setting up the bank account.
Yeah, they couldn't even use it.
It would not take our U.S. phone number, the international phone number.
Right.
It expected the systems are built to handle a South Africa phone number with the area code and stuff like that. And so that was a challenge. So that's another thing that I would make sure that I have in place. Get yourself a bank account and get yourself a mobile phone set up. Have those two. If you're going to be back and forth over there, living, residing, traveling very frequently, get yourself a phone. That way you have something that you can do business through. Now, I also learned, though, that even with having that phone, I had some limitations because we have that 087 area code or
because
whatever.
they told us some of them couldn't even call us. When they tried to call your U.S. number, they couldn't from South Africa. They couldn't even call your. They couldn't call your U.S. number.
That's because they don't have that capability. They don't provide for international calling. But what I'm speaking to is me calling them. Even though we have international calling on this side, you have that 087, which I learned is a national number rather than having the regional number.
Right.
Like you have a regional number and then you have a national number. The national number for all of South Africa is 087. And I find that unless there's a WhatsApp number associated with that, you can't call through to that number. So what I had to find out was I had to go on Google for like my particular bank, and I was able to locate a number that they had listed on Google that I was indeed. It wasn't a 087. It wasn't a national. It was a Johannesburg regional or Gauteng regional number, right?
Okay.
And so I was able to reach that number, and then once I reached that number, was it the bank or was it the management company? I think it was the management company. But at any rate, I was able to reach that main number, and then once they answered the phone, I asked them for the individual I was trying to reach, and then they were able to connect me to that individual. So that's how I got around it. So that's one thing you might have to do: find creative ways of reaching people, even if you have that. That South Africa phone number.
Yeah.
But call quality is an issue. Being able to hear on the call properly, because a lot of times, because we're calling from the United States, and I'm assuming it's probably not being routed via satellite, it's probably being routed via undersea fiber optic cable. And so with that, you're going to have signal degradation. You're talking about going across the entire Atlantic Ocean. And so a lot of times, and then with the infrastructure maybe not being as developed there, it also affects the call quality. So, a lot of times I'm on the phone and I'm talking to people, and you're dealing with the accents. They have my accent that they're listening to. I have their accent that I'm listening to, and I'm trying to figure out, even though they speak English, there's still the accent. When you place that on top of a low call volume or it's sounding muffled, it presents a challenge. So communicating can be quite difficult at times, and that can be a point of frustration. But it's something you have to remind yourself of.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then also language barriers, right? Language barriers and certain terms that they might use as opposed to what I'm accustomed to listening to, right? Because a lot of times I talk to maybe some Indian descent, people of Indian descent who may be there in South Africa because there's a large Indian population there, right? So I may be speaking to a person of Indian descent in a call center there, or I could be speaking to a person of Indian descent in India.
Right.
But nevertheless, there's a language barrier sometimes there with the accent, the heavier accent. So there are things that you have to deal with. And then also I had a problem with the calls just dropping in the middle of the call. We're finally making some headway. I've been trying to reach this person for hours and hours, and I finally get through, and we're talking, and they asking me for a specific piece of information, and the call drops.
And I know a couple times it was right before they were, closing. So that means we have to wait till the next day. Yep.
Yeah. So these are just challenges that you're going to have to deal with. And but you persevere and you remain resilient.
But the time zone, so that plays a big part too, with them being 6 hours ahead. You have to, consider that when you're trying to take care of business. So that means if you're getting up earlier or whatever, so that you can be able to contact whoever it is you need during the times that they're open. So that's something else to consider too.
Yeah, that's a good segue, time zone, because during this entire process, which started for us back in August, I think it was, when we were having calls, a lot of time I'm waking up, 4:30 in the morning, and it affected my sleep cycle a lot of times, because we had to handle that business, with different people over there. And so because of the fact that South Africa is 6 hours ahead, which right now we're in the 4 o'clock hour, so 10 o'clock, so it's about 10 o'clock, 10:40 p.m. approximately. So that's something else that you have to adjust for, dealing with that particular challenge. Is the time zone difference, to make sure that, in which for me, I tend to accommodate them and not try to have them accommodate me, right? Because they're not going to be up at, they're not going to be out there in the late evening just to talk to you in your early afternoon.
Exactly.
Because again, your business hours say 9 to 5 or whatever. When 5 comes, you're out of there. So I get it. And so so we just manage our schedule as such to where we do things early in the morning, and I make sure that I'm available to people, and I try to make sure that I'm up. So one other thing that I kind of see is a challenge has to do with the fact that we are American, right? Unfortunately, and probably to some degree justifiably, a lot of the rest of the world has certain perceptions about people from the United States. And it's because, again, we are a U.S. centered world, rightly or wrongly. And so that's the lens that a lot of times we tend to look through. And so I find that in the course of dealing with these various challenges, right, I have to remind myself, I always tell myself that, that I'm not necessarily the focus, right? We're not their only bank customer. We're not their only customer. And so when things get frustrating, one thing we have to remind ourselves, I think, just as Americans, right? it's about being diplomatic. You have to employ a sense of diplomacy, a lot of patience. Things work out. Our experiences overall have been
It's
great.
been great.
Has been great.
Yep.
Even though things don't necessarily move as fast, and sometimes you have unexpected hiccups, but our interactions with people over there have just all been cordial. They've been friendly. They've been understanding.
Yep.
We've been able to cooperate with each other. And of course, you want to, right? Because the last thing you want to do is piss somebody off.
Right.
And you need
I
them.
mean, this is a transaction that we're trying to get completed, so we need their assistance.
Their help, right? The last thing you want to do is piss somebody
Right.
off. Because that could mean that you are sitting around waiting a week, and while you're trying to get that money situation resolved to make sure that your property, you're not locked out from your residence, right?
Exactly.
You want to make sure that you stay on that you remain on good terms with people.
But they and I will say, even with that, like you said, when you had the drop call, they called back, sent us an email, they followed back up. They didn't have to do that, but
Yeah,
they
no, they
did that.
didn't.
So definitely wanted to put that out there, because that take was very positive, and that, to me, that just speaks to great customer service. Because I have banking background as well, and so to take the time out to call customers back just because a call dropped, a lot of times you may not get that to happen. So I thought that was very professional and great customer service to do that, because they didn't have to.
Yeah, and that's and I think too, I was very, very forward in telling them, like, whenever I had a phone conversation, because I guess I was always paranoid
Right.
about this call is gonna drop. The first thing that I typically say when I call somebody after I say hello, I tell them, I say, I'm calling to you from the United States. And so there may be a problem with the call quality if you have difficulty understanding me, and I tend to speak slower. I
Yeah.
tell them I am going to speak slower so that you can understand. Not looking down my nose
Right,
at them.
right, yeah.
It's just a technical accommodation that I'm
right.
making to try to establish with them right off the bat that,
Yeah.
hey, I want to get this business taken care
Exactly.
of. Here's some challenges that I know
Yeah.
exist. Let's get that out the way, so that way they already know if that call suddenly drops, and I think that contributed to their
Yes.
reaching back out to us,
Exactly.
because they knew that, okay,
Right.
this is an international conversation, and this is an international customer.
Exactly.
Right? So I need to deal with this person because they're putting money in our bank, right? And so in order for them to do the business with the bank, then we need to have this have this channel available to do that. So everything works out fine,
did.
and I'm encouraged as we go forward.
Another thing I do want to point out, you may want to make sure that you have international calling on your call plan. I don't care what provider you're with here in the States. If you do not have international call plan on your plan to make international calls, it can get expensive.
Yeah,
We just found that out.
yeah, to the tune of almost $700 on the phone bill
So
for this month on our mobile phone bill. It's that was a nice surprise.
Please, it's worth the $15 a month versus having to pay
Having-
several hundred for just a few minutes, because they're going to charge you per
minute,
minute that
yeah.
you're on that call if you do not have an international plan. So make sure
Yeah.
you have that.
Yeah, because what we did was we got the day pass, but the day pass is $10 per day for each
didn't
line.
realize that. Now that day pass is when you are already over there, in
Once you're
whatever
already
country
there.
you're going to be able to use your phone, period. You can pay the $10, but it's not you here in the States and you can call another country. So that's why I went wrong, because I thought, we got it, we're good, and got the
Yeah.
bill. Oh, we're not.
Yeah, almost $700 US. So
Yeah.
that's so I just have on my phone, just my phone. So
Right.
all of our lines, we only need one phone that
Right.
needed. So I just pay the monthly international calling plan. That way I can call back and forth unlimited, and it's not an issue. And I still have my South Africa phone as well, but I'll use that to do the heavy lifting. And then I'll also take an older phone that I have that I never use. It's not a brand new smartphone, but it's a smartphone that I'm going to take and have that SIM card swapped
Yeah.
over from the little disposable grandma phone, South African family.
That phone is
I'm gonna have it put into an Android smartphone. So next time I come over there, so we're gonna get that done, and so hopefully that will take and improve our communication
Yes.
challenge.
Yeah.
You know, so we still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get it done. But yeah, so those are some of the challenges that we just kind of deal with, being foreign owners of real estate, residents in South Africa.
But overall, I would say it was not a complicated process.
Nah,
It wasn't complicated.
wasn't complicated. We
know.
knew, we prepared ourselves well and exposing ourselves to that process, doing that legwork up front. And fortunately, having this particular developer having the model that they do, it's just I've been totally impressed by the model that they have, and I think that's why they're able to replicate it so well.
Oh, the other thing I will add is, if when you go to make a purchase, if you want to pay for it up front, you have to have it paid for within 21 days.
Oh yeah, at least in our particular case, and I think that may be for all.
That's all if you're paying for it up front.
Yeah, if you're paying cash, if it's not being paid for with a bond, right, through the bank finance.
Yeah.
Because from the time that we gave our deposit to the time we had to pay for the home,
because that was a shocker for me, and I thought it was
3 weeks.
incorrect. I said that can't be right.
Yeah,
21 days,
weeks.
and it didn't even matter what time. Even if you were looking at, because we were doing new development, so even if the development was not going to be ready till next year, once that contract was signed, the money was due in 21 days.
But
right,
in fairness, if you think about it, it's no different here. It's just that, you know, broadly in the United States, we get mortgages on our place. We're not really paying cash. Not typically, we're not.
No, the average
unless
person
we're
is not.
not the average person is.
Not
Not
the
unless
average
we're
person.
part of an investment group or we're kind of wealthy or whatever, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. If you think about the closing process, when you sign a contract to buy a home, however you're going to pay for it, whether it be through a mortgage, a loan, or cash, it's going to be paid off when you leave the closing table, right? And that's going to be anywhere from, you know, when the market was really high, it could be 14 days, upwards of, 45 or so days.
But if you're getting new construction and the home is not built yet,
oh, absolutely,
you see what I'm
you're
saying? And
waiting.
You're waiting 4 to 6 months. You're not paying that money until you're at the closing table.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
that's my
that
how I
was a surprise
looking at
for
it.
us because we were looking to actually purchase a place next year.
Right, and that
we
was the only
moved it
reason
up,
why
and
I
they
said
still
it.
told us that we would have to have it paid off, even if we bought. If we bought the place we were going to move into next spring, we still would have had to have it paid off
21 days.
in 21 days after initiating the sales order for the place. And the whole thing with that was the places might sell out if you have a community that you're buying into. You know, in a state community, they may have units that they're selling quickly. If the market's hot and if you don't buy your unit, then you're going to lose out. And so that's how we found ourselves in that situation. So, they had some units that were coming online that were available in October. And we actually lost one unit.
We sure did.
Within
a few days.
And it was because the payment, my deposit payment, wouldn't go through their website. The payment, their website would not accept it. They had to reprogram their website.
And the next day,
to accept, and somebody scooped up the particular unit that we wanted. But I'm glad that we didn't get that unit because I like the unit that we're in.
Yeah.
The building that we're in, the location of the building, as opposed to the one that we lost out on. So it worked out. But nevertheless, those are all challenges.
Yeah.
So just thought we'd share a little bit of that with y'all today.
Yeah.
And we can wrap this up.
We can.
And we made it through.
We
and
did.
Our second go around.
Yes.
But here we are.
The first time we had to do that. Hopefully
I know.
we won't have to do it
Hopefully
again.
Right. Because I tell you what, if this doesn't work, we're gonna skip this episode this week.
Please believe
And
it.
we'll come back around, figure out a different
we
workflow.
have to
But
figure something else out.
we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get out of here, and at the end of the day,
Like, share, and subscribe.
I forgot again. And even yesterday, I always forget.
I just thought about it myself.
It's so hard to remember that. It's so hard to remember to ask people to like, share, subscribe our video, subscribe to our
We
channel.
have a little the little
we
thing
just
going
get to
anyway,
talking and
but
stuff,
yeah.
and that this is our focus, is this content, is these conversations or everything. So yeah, like, share, subscribe.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's
Mel
and me, and this has been the podcast.
Holla.
You hesitated, like, you know, the time
Just
and
let
where
you go first.
All right.